All right, so today we're talking about what happens when a narcissist, when they become powerless. For the most part, they're used to having their way with people, doing whatever they want, and getting away with things, right? But we're gonna dive into when a narcissist loses their grip on you and on their image and on their power. How does that work for them? What happens? And now we know narcissists thrive on control, and not just any control, but typically and specifically emotional, social, and psychological dominance over other people. And your reaction, your validation, and your attention is what it's all about. That's their fuel. But what happens when the supply runs out? When you stop reacting, when people see through them, or when their manipulations stop working, not just on you, but just on multiple people in multiple search situations. That's when things get interesting, right? Because the collapse begins. They panic, not in an obvious or dramatic way that you would expect at first, but internally. So a lot of things are going on internally inside of them, which they're good at masking. They're scrambling. Their worst fear isn't being alone. Their worst fear is being irrelevant. Okay, so a lot of people think, oh, the narcissist doesn't want to be alone. No, their biggest thing is being irrelevant, right? So the shift, they'll shift into blame, right? They shift blame. So suddenly you'll start seeing where they're saying you're the toxic one. You were always ungrateful. And this is called that narcissistic injury, right? Where they're blaming you for a lot of stuff now. And it's just repetitive blaming you of things, right? And when their ego takes a hit, they lash out hard, especially around those who are closest to them. They play the victim quite often. You got to watch out for this one, because they'll rewrite the story where they were always the one being hurt. They might cry when they're telling somebody else something about you, or they might beg, they might smear you. This isn't remorse, okay, folks? This is a strategy for narcissists. This is what you have to understand when you see this. Crying, all of these things, it's a strategy. The desperation tactics that kick in are usually the return of the love bomb. If they sense you slipping away, they might suddenly turn sweet again. I've changed. I see everything clear now that you were talking about. Don't fall for that. That's a last ditch effort, at least, to pull you back under. Another one of their go-tos is them flying monkeys. If you start seeing the activity of flying monkeys coming up more, something's going on with a narcissist is losing their power, and they're utilizing anyone or anything around them that they can get to intervene in the situation to help them keep their power hold. They recruit others, friends, families, even strangers if they have to. And it's usually to try to guilt trip you or to shame you back into submission. They'll use the silent rage. When nothing works, they go quiet. But don't mistake that silence for peace, because inside they're fuming. They'll often plot, wait, and try to rise up again, do someone else or another opportunity to dominate you, at least. All right? Now, where does all this play for your power? Right? So here's the truth. You reclaim your power when you stop dancing to their tune. Don't argue with them. Don't explain yourself to them. Don't engage with them. A narcissist without control is a balloon without air. And you know what happens when you let the air out of a balloon, right? It's not your job to fix them. It's your job to protect your peace, right? A lot of you want to, you start seeing a narcissist, drowning in the, in their sorrow. And, some of you have that pity. Some of you, your kryptonite is feeling sorry, where you start having pity for them. And you had a whole course of action to how you were going to deal with them. And that one thing just strikes a nerve in you. And you call it off. And you decide to renegotiate with the narcissist. And in return, you end up, really allowing the narcissist to basically reposition themselves back into power over you, because everything they're doing is strategic. It's not genuine. It's just all strategy. And the strategy, for what it's worth, works pretty well when they do it. But when you begin to see narcissists, acting out, there's things going on, and it's usually when they're losing power, it's not just from you, it's multiple angles that's hitting them, and multiple failures, multiple, things going bad, going awry, and they have no control over it anymore. This is sometimes when they'll flat out ghost you as well. When they become completely powerless, they'll just ghost you. And you won't get an answer. You'll be wondering what happened? What went on with such and such? That's part of what goes on in those situations. You'll get ghosted. They'll leave it open like that because what are they gonna do? They've lost. They don't have the control anymore. They don't have the influence over people. So they have to go and move. Remember what I said. The biggest fear for them is being irrelevant. So if they're not relevant where they are or used to be with you, whether that's in a town, a city, a job, whatever, they will pick up and start anew somewhere completely different. Because now they have the chance of starting all over and being relevant. No one knows them wherever they go. Right? And narcissists are transient type individuals anyway. They don't necessarily need people to that they're close to, like family and stuff like that. A lot of narcissists are loners. They don't have any close friends that they've been having for years or anything like that. That's because oftentimes they're on the go. Because if they lose power somewhere, they're not going to stick around. That's just what it is. So basically, if you've dealt with this, you're not crazy, you're not cold or anything like that. You're basically learning and understanding the process of being able to call yourself to action to heal, right? Healing looks like no reaction. It looks like freedom, right? So when you get to a point where you have no emotional reaction to them, like whatsoever, they know that they've lost power. when no one is reacting to them anymore, and they start slowly slipping into that irrelevant phase. You know, you've gotten them to the point where they're, to you, it's, you know, it's not effective. I mean, it's not doing you anything. You're not crying because they're not calling you. You're not worried because you're not hearing from them. Right? You don't care if they go or not. And trust me, the narcissist will know. They'll be able to pick up on that. So those are just a little bit things to understand, that what happens when, you know, a narcissist is, you know, losing power. Another thing I just wanted to put in, whenever you see that shift with them, because narcissists are kind of like very sporadic, right? They're unpredictable. Anyway, that's what makes it hard. But when you see a pivot, like a very hard pivot, something's going wrong with them. Something's going wrong. The meltdown is about to come. And they can't afford to let you see them melting down either. Because you have to understand, when a narcissist is going through that, they're at an even more vulnerable point in their life. They're very vulnerable at that point. You can completely crush the narcissist if you were able to completely understand and know, you know, specifically when they were going through a meltdown. They know how to hide it. They know how to keep it hidden pretty well. It's something that they've practiced and learned how to, you know, survive off, to keep others from, you know, turning on them, keep others from, once you discover that, oh, you're not the big bad wolf after all, you're actually very sensitive, soft, and delicate. That's the worst position to be in, and then have others know as well. Because now you become the target. The hunter becomes the hunted in that aspect. So, anyway, just keep that in mind, folks, and keep yourselves safe out there. Anyway, make sure to hit a like, share, subscribe. Till next time, have a good one.